Nick, will officiating continue to be the headline, do you think, in this series?
I hope not, and I hope the officials call the game the way they've been calling it throughout the year, at least to a degree similar to how they've been calling the landing zone throughout the year. But Steve Kerr's right, by the way, if they watch the tape. There weren't 10 calls, missed calls that went against the Warriors. There were actually 11. According to the NBA's own data, there were 11 blown calls that hurt the Warriors. The problem is there were 17, according to the NBA's own data, that hurt the Rockets of obvious missed calls. So that's a +6 difference. That means now, officially, according to the NBA's data, in 7 of the 8 playoff games these teams have played, including 6 consecutive, dating back to Game 2 of last year's Western Conference Finals, the NBA's own data says the Warriors have gotten the beneficial whistle. The publicly available data says there were 3 blown calls in the final 2 minutes of that basketball game. 2 fouls on Steph Curry, which would have been his 6th and 7th foul, one of which, after bumping James Harden out of bounds, he taunted James Harden by pointing at the sideline. That would have been his 6th foul. And then his 7th foul on the one that Chris Paul ended up getting the technical and thrown out of the game on. So, I mean, listen, it is kind of amazing to me for the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, a team that employs Draymond Green, a team that in consecutive years has led the league in technicals, a team that in consecutive years has had the player who leads the league in technicals is going to say we shouldn't be complaining about the officials. But I hope officiating isn't the storyline moving forward, but it justifiably was the storyline of Game 1.
It was one of the storylines. The problem is not with, because everyone in the NBA complains. If I have one complaint about the NBA, is the players complain too much on the court. No one's committed a foul in NBA history. I don't know an NBA player that back when in high school and in college, when they called a foul on you, you used to have to raise your hand and be like, oh, that foul's on me, so the scorekeeper and everything be able to keep track of it. Now, they got 2 hands raised every time. Who, me? All NBA players are bad. So this is just not a James Harden thing. This is not Houston Golden State. Golden State complains about the referees every single game. The biggest problem here is Houston going to be able to get its focus back? Because, Nick, you talked about last year's playoff. We know who the world champ was. Don't nobody care about that storyline. Oh, in 5 of the 7 games, the whistle went to the Rockets. Well, you know something? People don't care. People care about winning. So the Rockets, they need to get off the officials and worry about what adjustments they're going to make. How can I get Clinton Capella to take advantage of his size against these Warriors? Those are the things going to decide this series. How can I get P.J. Tucker more shots than Shumpert and or House is shooting? Because last game, they shot the same number of shots. So for me, those are the things more important than worrying about the refereeing, because I believe, just like all referees, they're human, they got bosses, there will be a correction made. And I don't want them to call it like they did during the regular season. I want them to referee like they're refereeing all the other games.
Right.
Where guys are able to shoot 3-pointers and to build the land, and I believe that will occur in tonight's game.
So that's an interesting point. I mean, how do the players go into this game and take all that stuff out of it? How does Houston put together a game plan to beat the Warriors, irregardless of what the officiating is
When you
going
go to shoot tonight, you can't be worrying about a guy sliding up under you.
Of course.
And if they have spent all this time, they got their front office, they got their coaches, if they got their players, we're going to find out tonight. Did they make any adjustments? Because the refs will make adjustments based on the way Game 1 was called.
And to answer your question, how can they win tonight? I believe, and I think if you watch the game, I think most people believe, they played well enough to win Game 1. I don't think they need to make a major adjustment. Now, they need to hit open corner threes. They missed a bunch of open corner threes. Chris Paul, I think, to the thing you harped on yesterday.
They do. From an offensive standpoint, they do have to make some major adjustments.
I guess we're going to disagree on the term major. I think the only major adjustments I would make is I try to get more lobs to Capella.
If Clinton Capella takes 2 shots.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
What about P.J. Tucker?
So P.J. Tucker is the only shots he takes are corner threes. He's the best corner 3 shooter in the league. He's out there for his defense. And to shoot wide open corner threes in that game on Sunday afternoon, he had 3 wide open corner threes. He missed all 3. Like, P.J. Tucker is not a volume shooter.
He only took 4 shots, Nick. He's a starter.
See, I understand it, but he will take as many open corner threes as they have.
And if they don't score, If they don't score buckets, if they don't balance their offense, if Chris Paul is not aggressive, Chris Paul only took 9 shots. Now, these are major adjustments if the Rockets are going to continue, because what they did during the regular season, just like Milwaukee, sometimes that does not work in the postseason. If they don't have balance, I believe they go back home 0-2.
So during the regular season, they didn't have balance. During the regular season, were.
I just said that, but that doesn't work in the playoffs. It didn't work in this game.
Okay.
But we'll see. The game will be played tonight.
Well, listen, if you are expecting the Rockets to come out, I feel like we had this exact conversation when the Rockets fell down against the Warriors last year. In fact, I know we did when they were down 1-0 and they were down 2-1. Too much ISO ball. Why are they playing this way? They play how they play. Like, and if that style can't beat the Warriors, maybe it can't beat the Warriors.
Well, this is the big difference. They weren't playing against the Hampton Five. Steve Kerr showed you his hand. They got the Hampton Five out there. Okay, well, let's pound them in the middle. Because for every move, there's a counter move. In the playoffs, there's adjustments. Every team makes them. I believe Houston will make some significant adjustments to be able to try to get the win in game number 2.
See, last year, until Iguodala went out with the injury, they were absolutely playing against the Hampton Five. It was the same team, even if it wasn't the team, even if they didn't start the lineup in game 1 with the Hampton Five, they ultimately went to it. And the only plays at the rim the Rockets are going to have are James Harden drives and Clint Capella lobs. We are in agreement that Clint Capella should get more lobs. That in game 1, Harden was still, it seemed like, had the visions of Rudy Gobert in his mind. But if you are expecting tonight the Rockets to play a different style than they've played for 3 years, it's not what's going to happen. Now, do they need to be more efficient? Yes, they need to make more shots, but they're not going to change how they play. Like, we have 200 games of information and multiple playoff series against the Warriors showing they're not going to change how they play.
What about the Warriors, CC? Do they start the same starting 5? Do you want to see any adjustments made from them, since that's a game they definitely could have lost?
I think the Warriors, they realize that's their best lineup. And Steve Kerr said, I'm going to put them out there as many minutes as possible. The biggest difference now is Iggy seems a little bit healthier. He's playing great defense, and when they get the pick and rolls and the switches, he is great at the pick and roll on the defensive end. Draymond Green, it talked about it, man. He lost 20 pounds since earlier in the season. You could see his initial quickness, his burst, how he's engaged in the game. Like, they are major difference makers for them. They don't have much of a bench, so they can't get into foul trouble, but that's what I expect with Golden State. Clay didn't play well in game 1. Steph didn't play well in game. So there's a higher level that the Warriors can go to, and that's the reason why they're back-to-back champs.
There's no question the Warriors can go to a higher level. The Rockets are going to defensively, once again, no matter, Steph could have 6 bad games in a row. They are going to give the lion's share of attention to Steph Curry to make sure to try to run him off the three-point line. He still took 10 threes in game number 1, even though he was the focus of their defense. Kevin Durant took 25 shots, not counting shots he was fouled on. 22 of them were inside the three-point line. They are going to, if Kevin Durant's going to shoot contested twos, which he's probably the best in the league at contested twos, the Rockets are going to live with it. Yeah. So defensively, I believe they'll have a very similar game plan. Offensively, they'll try to get Capella more involved on the lobs, but I don't think the Rockets are going to change who they are. I think they're going to hope they actually, Daniel House, Shump, P.J. Tucker, those guys hit their shots, and that they get some of these calls they didn't get in game 1.
No, I don't expect the Rockets to change who they are. But if you're going to be a championship team, you have to have a number of ways that you can win. And with them having the small lineup out there to start the game, it would be able to send a message from a physicality standpoint. Because I care about the analytics, but basketball's a game of matchups. They don't have anyone to protect the rim. So I would try to take more shots at the rim, especially early in the game, than I typically would. Now, I know games are about styles. Fights are about styles and about matchups. So I expect Houston ultimately to get back to what they do, but they have a huge size advantage. And if they don't take advantage of that in this series, it will be 2 straight years where they might have had a better team, but they went home with the same result.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.